Hey guys, it's October 25th. It's been pretty warm up until last night so far. Then it got down into the 30s last night, and I don't know, really kind of put a chill in the house. So I think what I'm going to do today is get the outdoor boiler going for the first time this year, and I'll take you through what I do to make that happen. First thing I got to do is fill it with water, so I'm gonna go get the hose. Here's your fill port on top, and you really just put the hose in, and back here, right here. So this is the overflow tube, and once water starts running out of that, you know you got it nice and full. I'm not sure how many gallons it takes. I've got a pamphlet on this somewhere. If I find that, I'll put it in the video, but let's go get the hose and get water in this thing first. So real quick before I fill that boiler with water, I want to put my drain plugs back in here. I forgot. So this is the loop that comes from the boiler up through the house, and then the return side here. I always pull the plugs out in the springtime just to drain that leg and get any extra water out of the boiler too. So it really makes a big difference. It also drains all the water out of the house unless you isolate the house loops, which I did. So let's get these plugs in. Just drop that right in there like that. So the biggest reason you want to fill that before lighting a fire is that the thermostat on the boiler senses water temperature, and if there's no water in it, it'll think it needs the fan to get the fire burning hotter to heat that water. You know, if you got just air in there, there's no water in contact with that thermometer in the boiler, and it'll constantly run that fan. Your firebox will get extremely hot, and with no water around it in the water jacket of the boiler, it will end up warping the steel, and you'll have cracking issues, and welds will crack, and it could potentially ruin your whole boiler. So you always want to make sure you get the boiler filled with water first. There is a sight glass on this side too. It's a little hard to see here. I gotta plug the light in. Oh, I've also got this valve open back here, so we'll close that. I do that to drain the boiler as well. So you got your pump 1 here, this is for the house. Pump 2 here, this is for the shop. In my house, there's a breaker specifically for the boiler, and the thermostat's in the house, and the solenoid valves in the basement for your zone valves, I should say, that will turn on or off depending on each zone's call for heat. So let's turn that on. So I got all the ashes and everything cleaned out from last season. I do that in the springtime, but I got kindling in here, some newspapers. We'll get a fire going as soon as this boiler's filled with water, and then we'll make sure it's getting to the house and go from there. So there's a quad outlet box here that's wired to that breaker down in the basement I just showed you, through this conduit that runs next to the PVC that the PEX for the house runs through. I just plugged the fan into that. I'm not going to plug the pumps in yet, but the fan and the light out here are controlled by that outlet. So right now I've got this flipped up, which basically kills your fan that feeds the fire. But if I shut this off, that fan will kick on because the thermostat is reading, it's probably whatever, 60-degree water. So it thinks, you know, it needs to kick that fan on, get the flame built bigger, and get that water heated up. So just a few minutes here, we'll start a fire, get that water heating up. Just looking at the sight glass and waiting for my water to start coming out of that overflow pipe there. So a couple more minutes. Alright, that kindling is going pretty good. So I'm going to shut this door most of the way. I'm going to turn this fan off, which is my exhaust for when I load the boiler. And then that automatically turns the rear fan on, or the fan that feeds the fire, to get that nice and hot. So that'll bring my water temp, that'll stay on until my water temp comes all the way up to 160 degrees. So, got one thermostat in my living room. We'll set that at 69. Go upstairs, I got another thermostat up here on the landing. Set that for 68. Like it a little cooler where you're sleeping. And that won't do anything yet because I haven't plugged the circulator pumps in on the boiler out there. Let's take a look down here. So we can open these. That's not going to hurt anything. These zone valves are open right now, or opening. This one's opening right now. But again, it's not going to do anything until we plug those circulator pumps in outside. Then you'll start feeling this get real warm. When there's no call for heat on either zone, it just goes right back to the boiler. All these are closed, and it just short circuits right back to the boiler via this valve. This one closes when the zone valve, either of the zone valves are open. So So 63 in here now. Let's go turn the pump on. See what temp the water is. Filled the firebox up. after we got some decent coals and flame going in there. So should be good to have plenty of fuel to get the water up to temp. I'm sure it's not there yet, but about 120. 120, 125-ish. So, you can see it's still dripping a little bit out the overflow. Filled it right to the brim. Oh, I want to leave this one off for now. That's for the shop. But I do want to plug this one in. So I'll make sure my valves are all open here. Return's open. Supply's open. Isolation for the circulator pump. So we should be good here. And already you can feel this is getting really nice and warm. That's going to start heating the house up. So like I said, I'll check each one of these PEX runs. And if there's one of them here, one of the returns in a few hours that isn't warm, what I'll do is I'll shut the other valves off so that it's just pumping through that one leg, and that'll force the air out of the system. But it may or may not be an issue. We'll see. So I just came down, and all of these are the return side. So filled each one of these. Everyone's warm except for this loop here. So I'm going to leave that valve on, shut the rest of the valves. We'll force all the water through here, get any air out that's in there. And you can already hear it working. And then that should start warming right up. You can see this PEX pipe bouncing around now because it's finally getting water through there. Once it's all full of water, I can open all these back up and they'll all work just fine. At least that's how I've done it in the past. So it's pretty much all there is to it. Probably an hour and a half worth of work in the fall, and then another hour and a half to drain everything out in the spring, and obviously a lot of time filling it over the winter, but sure is nice having heated floors and saves you a whole lot of money.